What do you think that you are recovering from?
Sex addiction,
Okay.
anger. Well, not anger per se, rage. Um, Anger is an emotion. Well, my name's Troy Love. That really is my last name. I was also born on Valentine's Day. So think about the way that the statistics of that. I was adopted at birth, and
Okay.
um, the family that adopted me, they were very loving, but there was also a lot of problems going on in that home. My dad had some of his own issues that he had not resolved, and he took them out on my mom. And then my mom would take those out on me and my siblings. So that was a challenge growing up with that. And then when I was in junior high, I was bullied a lot, and I was a scrawny little kid, so teeny and not good at a whole lot of sports, and so I was bullied a lot. And so when I was about 14, I stumbled into porn. Well, they didn't have porn really back then. I mean, they did, but it wasn't the internet yet. So, but I did fall into masturbation, and couldn't stop doing that. And then when the internet came around, I quickly became addicted to that. And I realized that this is going to destroy my life. So at the same time, I was going to school to become a therapist as a social worker. And my professor told me that if I wanted to be a good social worker, I really needed to go do my own therapy. And so I did. And I started to go work on some things. And then I moved to the middle of nowhere in Arizona where they didn't have a whole lot of therapists. And so I tried to start putting what I was learning together and created a model that I now use today to help other people who are trying to recover and help them understand the foundations of why we're addicted and how we can help turn to our healing sources to heal that so that we don't have to deal with that for the rest of our lives.
Good deal. What do you believe is the core root? You're talking about that foundation of addiction. To based on your experience and knowledge, what do you think the core of addiction come from?
I call them attachment wounds. So, as humans, we're wired to be connected uh, biologically, spiritually, neurologically, emotionally, sexually. We are wired to be connected to each other. And if something happens that breaks those connections or damages those, then that will have profound impact on our lives. And then we will find ways to try and numb the pain.
Mm,
A lot of times, we don't even realize that those wounds were happening when we are kids because we didn't know any better. But like loss, rejection, neglect,
mm,
abandonment, betrayal, abuse, those kind of things. We don't even realize that those are happening, but the wounds are happening to us. And then as we become teenagers, early adults, we quickly find our drug of choice to try and numb that pain until we realize if I could turn to a place to help heal that wound, I wouldn't have to numb it anymore.
right, right. And one thing they talk about in recovery, we talk about how a disease manifests itself in different areas. So, Troy, I could put the
Absolutely.
drugs down. And a lot of times, we can attach to different things. Am I following you right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So, because an addict is an addict is an addict, and we will switch our drug of choice to whatever. If we aren't dealing with the underlying issue, we're just finding another way to numb it.
Right, right. We can get addicted to, food, working out,
Absolutely.
attachment, or different people. Can we become addicted to a person?
You can become very dependent on a person.
Okay.
If you can look at that person and think that they are everything for you, which there's a lot of problems with that. If the person's not going to show up perfectly in your life because they're human.
Okay.
And so if you are like as children, we're obviously dependent on our parents to take care of us. But as we start to grow into adulthood, we need to learn how to be more what we call interdependent. So we are
Hmm.
still dependent in this world on each other. We need each other to help us be successful, but I can't put all of my responsibility of my life on somebody else. That's not going to work out really well for either of us.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That sounds good, Troy, man. I'm recovering from that, man. Some anxiety that takes place, man. I'm talking
Oh,
about I'm a
so
grown
much.
man. I be telling people, I say I'm 56 years old. Any given day, I can act like a child.
Absolutely, man. Those wounds lead us to react the way we would when we were a kid because they hurt.
Yeah, yeah. What are some of the methods you use to help people heal from, I guess, is that part of that adult child syndrome?
Some people have that.
Okay.
Um, so the the model that I work with is we have these attachment wounds. And so the first step, it's kind of like the first step in the 12 steps is becoming aware that there's an issue, right? So the first step in healing is understanding, well, I have an attachment wound. I probably have more than one attachment wound.
Okay.
And I describe it like they're like sunburns. So if you've ever had a sunburn or you've ever
Mm-hmm.
hurt your shoulder, cut yourself, it like I always end up hurting myself, and I always seem to bump up into the walls all the time when I do that. But
Mm-hmm.
when these wounds are here, we try to put barriers around us so that nobody bumps up into us. But you can't go through life without having people bump up into your wounds. So there's got to be a different way, because what that will do is just isolate us, make us feel like we're alone,
Yeah.
and will not create a healing environment for those wounds. So that's the first part, is identifying, oh, I do have them. And then the second is, well, what have you come to believe about yourself because of those wounds? So my primary
Mm-hmm.
wounds are rejection and abandonment. And as I was growing up, my primary core belief was I'm not enough. I'm not wanted. There's something seriously wrong with me. And that became the operating system that ran my life.
Mm-hmm.
And so every time that I experienced rejection, my brain would use that as another evidence that, oh, see, that really just proves that you're not enough. Oh, that really
Mm-hmm.
proves that you're not wanted. Those kind of things. So understanding that that's the dynamic, and then beginning to start to challenge that, and to begin to ask some questions from a place of truth, because those core beliefs are not truthful, right? One of
Mm-hmm.
the things that a lot of people think is like, well, if I could just be perfect enough, then no one would reject me, no one would abandon me, no one would abuse me. And I'm like, the Son of God was perfect,
Mm-hmm.
and he has all six wounds. So that logic's not going to work. So we got to find another way. We need to turn to our higher power as a way of help healing these wounds rather than just trying to numb them.